Well, good day nerds. Today we are going to take a look at FV215B183, the infamous 183 since back in the old days. It used to be actually a very good tank back in the old days. Now it is just, it's okay, you can play it for fun, but it's no tournament tank, it's not broken in any way. Back in the day it was not broken either, it was just a nice tank. You would never use it for tournaments, but they decided to nerf it anyway. It used to have camo rating, which got nerfed. It used to have traverse numbers, which got nerfed, which is actually a good thing. Tank destroyers and heavy tanks should not have high traverse numbers. But anyway, Wargaming never makes up their mind, and sometimes they nerf the traverse and then they buff it. It makes zero sense why they do it with heavy tanks and tank destroyers. But anyway, and the accuracy of the gun got nerfed. So at its current state, FV215B183 has 1800 hit points. Let me mount some of my equipment here. I run calibrated, gun length drive, vertical stabilizers. I run enhanced armor for some reason, but there is no difference running enhanced armor or improved assembly. There's literally no difference here. I run I run engine accelerator because improved control is kind of like shit. It slightly increases your traverse numbers, whereas the engine accelerator already does that. There's only slight difference, but engine accelerator also gives you better power to weight ratio. So there's literally no point of running this. Then this or this. I think I run this, so you have more, so you can spam adrenaline more often instead of using high-end consumables, which increases how long you would be using. This also improves timing on the repair consumables, if I remember correctly. And then of course no one ever uses enhanced tracks. That is out of the way. Provision is just like this. So let's look at the characteristics of this tank. 1800 hit points, I already mentioned that. It has view range, but again it's a tank destroyer. I don't think you'd ever find yourself in a situation where you're spotting an FV215B183. But unlike Tortoise, this is decently fast. So maybe in the end game situation you would find yourself spotting tanks, but I don't think, because it has very awful camo rating, and if the 9.1 leaks are true, then it is also getting further nerfed in terms of camo rating. Because why not? Then we are in the damage department. We have damage per minute here, 2801. It's at the low end for AP rounds, but once you mount your HESH rounds, it is through the roof. 4000 damage per minute. But don't be deceived by this number. The thing is, FV215B183 has 19.9 second reload time, and that is pretty much enough for almost all tanks in tier 9 to 10 to get rid of you by the time you would reload. So you have to shoot once and then back off immediately, basically. You have very good penetration of 326 millimeters, but if the leaks of 9.1 are true again, then they are nerfing the penetration to 300. It will go up to 310 then. 930 is very good damage, HESH is 300, and the cheap HESH basically makes no difference, so I would never recommend mounting cheap HESH in this case. It has nothing going for it. The premium one is called HESH, while it's called HE, the third one. There's no difference between HESH and HE in terms of splash radius, so there's literally no point of running the cheap HE. I guess there's one point: it costs 0 credits, unlike HESH, but you don't play any HESH firing tanks to save money, really. you play these HESH firing tanks to do good big damage numbers. So let's get that out of the way. On the HESH you have very good penetration of 242 millimeters, which is enough to go through lower plates of quite a few heavy tanks. The caliber is 183 millimeters. Who could have thought that? The rate of fire, I said that. Now here's the problematic part, of course. As the gun is this big, it has very bad aim time and incredibly bad dispersion, 0.4. It's surprisingly not the worst. I wonder who has the worst. But 0.4 is very problematic, because this tank requires to be played at in the range of 300-ish meters. So at that point your dispersion would be 3 times this number. But the thing is, dispersion is not linear. You use the square of this number because dispersion is a circle. So your dispersion factor is much worse. It's very worse. It's very unlikely to aim at properly and hit tanks at that kind of range. But anyway, the dispersion factors are much worse. The movement would add this much, rotation would add this much. This is, I think it's less than tortoise, but it's more pronounced because your base dispersion is much worse to begin with. Aftershot never matters in this tank because you shoot too slowly to it ever be significant for you. I guess in uprising, if you run double shot, then it would matter, but uprising is not a regular game mode. Then we have the depression and elevation angle. Depression is terrible, 5 degrees, and elevation is decent actually, 15 degrees. You can use the with gun elevation depression technique to shoot tanks that are below you because 5 degrees is not going to cut you. Then we have the gun arc. Despite having a turret, it's not fully rotational one. It has 45 degrees left and right, which is at least 20 degrees better than tortoise left and right. Turret traverse is quite slow. And here is the even more problematic part, but not that much. Unlike tortoise, this actually has good speed. It's enough for you to keep up with your team. You would not be left behind. 34 kilometers per hour. The backward speed is going to get buffed by 2 kilometers per hour if the 9.1 leaks are correct. The engine power to weight ratio is god awful. Like in best condition, you're not even going to get 9 horsepower per ton. It's actually slower than tortoise in terms of acceleration, but your top speed would allow you to accelerate further, unlike tortoise, which gets stuck at 20 kilometers per hour. Traverse numbers are completely insignificant. It's super easy to circle something which does 30 degrees without a fully rotational turret. Then here we are in the concealment factor. These are getting severely nerfed in 9.1 if the leaks are true. But let's simulate the M48 Patton's view range as base. M48 Patton has 312 meters view range. There we go. So to not get spotted by M48 Patton, just for you to know, it is the second highest view range in the game, the highest being the Vickers, which is 320. But I believe in 9.1 few tanks are getting better view range, so this data might be outdated by that point. So if you are sitting completely still against most tanks, they would not spot you at 252 meters. If you are moving, you would be easily spotted. If you are sitting completely still, but you are firing, you would be spotted in 265 meters. And if you are shooting while moving, you would be spotted in 283 meters. So it's basically like a grill. Sit in the range of over 270 meters and you will be fine and dandy. Unlike the old FV25B183, its armor profile was changed not a long while ago. Now it has received auto ricochet cheeks, because why not? Here we have FV25B183 looking directly at me, and the cheeks are in the range of 69 degrees, even 70. Well, it will get 70 if the tank would be slightly angled, or if you are wiggling like this slightly, even slight movements. That will be enough to get it to 70 degrees. And as the nominal armor is 116 millimeters to begin with, there is no tank in the game that can overmatch this with AP-PCR rounds. But you can of course penetrate this tank with heat, because this armor profile is in the range of VK72. It's quite penetrable. Then you have a bunch of these garbage. I don't know why they do this. They can easily simplify this, but doesn't matter. Super penetrable. You can't actually side script in this tank. You think that, oh, it has turret mounted in the rear, so I could probably side scrape, but as you just saw, you have these things sticking out, and these are quite a giveaway way to shoot you when you're side scraping. Just this has spaced armor here, so if you wanted to shoot HE, you can't really shoot here. Whenever you see a tank destroy in general, just make this rule for yourself. Whenever you see a tank destroyer, you never fight it from the front. Especially in case of 93, when it can smack you with 1300 potential damage. And in the worst case scenario, it can go up to 1600 damage. This is the highest roll of HESH rounds on FV25B183. Always flank it. If you'll flank it, then you can shoot HE here in quite a few medium tanks. For example, WZ121 has HE in the range of 60 or 65 millimeters. I don't really remember. This is quite penetrable for that tank. And as the turret is not fully rotational one, this guy has absolutely no chance to shoot you. So if you don't have penetration to shoot HE here, first take out the tracks, one of the drive wheels. And this is the drive wheel. This is, you can't actually see my cursor. So first take out the tracks by shooting the drive wheel or the driver sprocket, and then keep firing this guy. He has absolutely no chance to do anything against you. So FV25B183 is not really good in terms of armor profile. In the back can be HE as well. Sadly, Guerrilla 15 doesn't have good penetration on HE, so this would have been so much fun to deal with FV25B183s and Guerrilla. But anyway, now on to the replays. Well, loading into the first replay, where in the first, actually we're going to see two replays in the same map but on different sides. I guess I can give a bunch of how-to in these maps on both sides. But yeah, loading in, I am in FV25B, who could have guessed. We have a bunch of mediums and heavy tanks that are hull down-ish meta. So there's again absolutely no point in going towards the seaside as we are on the north spawn, as none of our heavy tanks are capable of what's called side scraping. But there is position on the left side of north spawn for hull down tanks to play in. But in general it would be better if we go towards medium side as we're going right now. So I am going to go towards the bush on this, I guess this is, I don't know, this anti-air gun where everything guys. So I'm going to sneakily try to get into this bush without getting spotted. Surprisingly, Yak was not tall enough to spot me there, and he is our first target. I'm going to aim it properly, launch my adrenaline to do extra module damage and do 1400 damage with the STB. And as we can see, he is very happy that we did hit that. We taught him a lesson not to poke sideways in a hull down tank, and he was very glad to know that. Now our 50B is getting rest because our medium tanks for some reason did not go towards medium side. Well, at least Batchat is over there, but our other medium is on the C side. I don't know what he's doing over there. He could be dominating over there, and the sound profile is still decent, but 50B is now going to die. I somehow managed to connect that, but it was a low roll. It was god awful low roll. Like 1300 is average. I got 1000 with HESH. Anyway, now the Chieftain Mark 6 is being retarded. He's poking sideways in a hull down tank. So I'm going to teach him a lesson as well. To aim in properly, wait for his engine deck to get into my reticle, and nice. Almost another fire, but he immediately douses it. I think that's the term. I want to get rid of the Yag, but he's looking at me. I'll ignore him. Then the T-22 is rushing the Chieftain Mark 6. I'm going to load HESH and try to shoot the front. And that's the balanced T-22 getting balanced by a balanced FV-25B-93. There was 3 layers of sarcasm there. Now it's the T1LT is the closest tank for me to do massive damage, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to sneak behind him and force him to rush the heavy tanks if he doesn't want to get smacked by me. But he wasn't paying attention, so I get back in and get rid of him. That was very fast replay. Like in 2 minutes and 47 seconds long battle, and we managed to do 6,500 damage as the enemies were completely dumb. They were completely dumb. There are better words than retarded. Yeah, I know. They were completely dumb. They were poking sideways in their hull down tanks. Absolutely not required. But this is also where you'll get the point of how to play FV-25B-23. You sit at the start, you wait for the dumb enemies to poke sideways and you smack them. Later you push out when there are not so many tanks or they are not desperately trying to kill you, and then you go on one by one killing them. So we got an ace, 6,500 damage, nice. And let's start at the bottom, AMX-50B. I think the player was trying to do fine job, but the way they executed their fine job was not good way. That's why they only did 364 damage. They didn't even do average damage of one shot. Batchat 25D in the same range as 50B was trying to do fine job on the medium side, but they were exposing themselves to shoot shells. No, dump their magazine, which was idiotic. You don't do this in auto loaders or reloaders. You wait for opportunity when you can shoot the target with 100% guarantee. You dump your entire clip into them. So patience is key, and those two players did not show any of that patience. I think the 260 was fighting near me, but in the open side in a hull down tank, which makes no sense. Why would you do that? So died pretty low at low damage, 1240, like shot 3 times and died. E50M, I wasn't paying attention when he died, but I don't think it was the player who was capping C. I think it was the object 140. But anyway, both of those medium tanks did not perform well. They could have easily dominated the medium side, E50M in particular, because it has, I believe, 7 or 8 degrees of gun depression, which it can easily use on that side, and don't allow T22, STB was not there, T1LT or 50B pushing, but they allowed the medium flank to fall. I think the object 140 was the one that ran away, went towards the heavy side for absolutely no reason. We won this game basically not because of good play by our team, but because of completely idiotic play by the enemy team. They did not require to rush. I mean, they could have rushed more properly, but the way they rushed was idiotic. It was not required to do so. They rushed one by one in the intervals of 20 seconds just for me to load my HESH rounds into them while they were poking sideways. Kinda ironic. And I was talking about the Chieftain Mark 6. He was doing fine job. He was in a hull down position. They were in a hull down position, and they did fine job. 2000 and survived, and somehow bought in a V215 B183 managed to hit all of its shots with god awful accuracy. Straight up hacks. Let's talk about the enemy team as well. Yak Panzer Even Henry did 500 damage. Maybe the reason is they did not play their tank properly. They were sitting in open, begging everyone to shoot them. Yak Panzer Even Henry it's good in side scraping, we can say. It's not really that good. You can still load your gold and penetrate the cheeks, but it's okay. But unlike the normal Yak Panzer Even Henry players, this Yak Panzer Even Henry player was simply sitting in open, begging to be shot at. I never saw 263, but they did. T100 LT. They could have dominated medium flank and then went towards the heavy flank. There is a position from where you can shoot all the players that are trying to fight in the middle of the medium flank. They could have done that, but no, they died, wasted their high-end top speed, 68 km per hour, because Wargaming is again completely incapable of balancing like fastest tank with good armor profile with also good spotting mechanic. Yeah. I will try not to bitch about T1LT. 50B played fairly on the medium side, but their rush was idiotic. Like, I was already spotted once. I smacked the STB. They would have already known that I was in that range and in that area, that he should not be pushing over there, that he can be smacked with HE or EP rounds that would do at least 1000-ish damage. That's why they died. They should not have done that. STB1, I would say not a good player. They were using their hull down tank while poking sideways, which never makes any sense. Like, even in any tank, even in side scraping tank, it makes no sense to poke sideways. You're always trying to side scrape. Come on. Then we have Chieftain Mark 6 and T22, both from good clan, but those players are not that good. Chieftain Mark 6 in particular was poking sideways in a hull down tank. Like, come on. This is getting very repetitive at this point, and they got smacked by FV215 B183 because they just couldn't decide whether they want to rush further or they want to stay sideways. So I managed to smack them. T22 on the other hand, I guess also completely forgot that I was in that region. They should not be poking sideways like they did, or maybe they had ping issue, because I saw that they were driving into the map, in the border of the map. I guess they had ping issue. I can't really bitch on T22 over here, but it did fairly well, 3000 damage. That's the end of that replay. Let's get into the next replay. Loading into the second replay in the first map. This time we are going to be in the south spawn, I believe. Yep, we are in the south spawn. We have a Leopard 1 E50M as mediums, and enemy has only one medium, that's the STB1. So it's pretty good that we can dominate A side if none of us would be dumb enough to rush like in the first replay. Leopard 1 does not want to go towards medium side, he wants to front line for some reason on heavy side. So there is literally no point here. I don't think E50 has chance to play against STB, so I turn around and say him to turn around as well. Hopefully he will do that. Now I will try to get on, there's a ledge here on the heavy side. I want to get on top of there and smack tanks whenever I get a chance to do so. So I'm going to go here. E50 is slowly reversing. There is the 50 TP. It doesn't appear like the heavy tanks are here because literally nothing has been spotted, and A is going up. So now I'm going to get on this. Want to get on this. There's the 50 TP on the bush, so I'm going to wait until he backs off so I don't get spotted. because there's always potential that tank destroyers are camping over there where the mouse is. It's the mouse. I want to see where he's looking. Did not manage to see, so I'm going to now get on this. There's the STB. He's also dumped like in the first replay. He's sitting in open kindly in a hull down tank. Minus the 1000 damage. That is a nice high roll. And it's the 268 and the mouse is coming here. I want to smack. That is the M5. Oh hell yes. Going to load the HESH into aim and luckily connect that with a high roll, 1500 damage. Now I'm going to back off as I'm reloading. There's no point. Mouse spots me, and as I have auto ricochet cheeks, I get lucky with 268 and bounce him. The range was here more. The range was in the play, as despite 268 being decently accurate, he could not manage. They could not manage to not hit the cheeks. I guess the 70-degree auto ricochet angle played good part here. Now I need to be closer to my teammate, as the other guy next to me is very low in terms of hit points, so I might get thrust. I want to go further. I want to smack one of those tank destroyers up there. That's the Yak. I'm going to smack him, but he backs off, and my 83 is here, but I didn't have time to aim in properly and smack him, as I got spotted. 268 have possibly shot at me if I stayed further, and that shell fails to connect. M5 Yo is here. Is he kind enough to poke sideways? Place your bets. He is kind enough to poke sideways. Amazing. So now enemy team are losing map control. I'm going to get rid of the STB. As I'm reloading, my aim time is quite long, so it doesn't matter. I would be aiming it anyway, so I poke quicker. Now it's 2 versus 4, and the entire enemy team is on that side as 268. Instead of flanking, maintaining map control, decided to go towards the parts where their team had good control over. Want to get rid of the Yag, but the British Stalin helps me get rid of the mouse, and now the mouse is upset. Wow, focus. Of course, buddy, I was not aiming for you, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Can't help snowflakes, so I get a bit salty on the chat and say more like GG, easy. Got rid of the FV25-83. I guess they were not paying attention. Like this timer on the top, you can count if the it's 9 seconds or not. But here we are. 268 would be loaded by the point, so I don't want to deal with him. Yag would not be loaded, so I get rid of him. And 268 once again shoots my cheeks. I got very lucky here. He could have rushed right now. He could have rushed right now and got rid of me, but he decides to cap for some reason. I don't know why. So I'm going to back off further. He can approach me from 3 sides. That is the front or left or right or me. I don't want that, so I'm going to back off further, and he's dumb enough to approach from the front, so I get rid of him. 6,900 damage. Basically, wait for opportunity in this tank, basically. That's how I did the first replay, and the second replay in the fast. Is there a plugin or mod that gets rid of the dumb animation? I don't want it. Here we are in the team results. Surprising. E50 died on 2 damage. How salty can I get now? 2 damage. A player who was not AFK died on 2 damage. Can we talk about that? The FV25-23 did 506 damage. They were not AFK, but they were trying. I guess they got unlucky with RNG. 268, a very good tank destroyer, only died at 574 damage. Like, come on, are these players even trying? Leopard 1 decided to front line on heavy side instead of going towards medium or even spot the medium side. Now, why do any of that when you have the 65 kilometers per hour medium tank with no armor profile? You can just simply front line it. VK72, I guess I can't talk shit about them because the tank is shit to begin with, so I doubt the player played any bad. It's more the tank didn't perform. It doesn't have our profile on the front, got absolutely obliterated, but it did 1800 damage, which is not respectable, but it is some damage unlike the rest 4 tanks in our team. KPFPZ did amazing job in their hull down heavium, 4000 damage, and FV215B183 got incredibly lucky and managed to do 7000 damage somehow with 6 kills. This could have been the, I think, the Razanai medal if KPFPZ did not kill someone. But anyway, good job on KPFPZ. On the enemy team, M5Yo STB did idiotic sideways rush. That is why they died, but unlike M5Yo, STB did fairly well, 2000 damage. Enemy FV215B123, we can say got lucky, but not really against me, because my gun wasn't fully aimed, so I didn't quite manage to smack him properly, but they only did 1000 damage. I guess they did not want to relocate with the team or play in a way that they have map control and enemies are not shooting directly at them like I did. So they only died at 1000 damage, 50 TP, don't know what they did. Mouse, idiotic sideways. Like I mentioned in the first replay that even if you are a side-scraping tank, you are not going to drive sideways like they did. And if they did not did that, then this replay might have been a loss. I was aiming for Yak Panzer E100 there, but I managed to kill the mouse because I missed. And the mouse was poking sideways. Their luck could not have been any better over there for me. But if the mouse was not dumb there, the game was in the back for them. They could have won this game. But no. Then Yak Panzer E100, I guess they played fairly well. 3000 damage, 3000-ish damage in Yak Panzer E100, and 268. We can say they played well, but I would say that because they decided to not maintain the map control, like they were already on the flank with the STB and M5Yo, they could have continued the flanking, possibly could have got rid of me, then the game was definitely in the back for them. But instead of that, instead of flanking, continuing their flank, they decided to turn around completely and fight our heavy tanks on the side where the team had already things in the control. Because of that decision, the game, we had chance to win the game, basically. If they had continued with flanking further and got rid of me possibly, then the game was in the back for them. But no, they did not do that. They just decided to, I am going to front line now instead of flanking. Like, make up your mind. If you want to flank, continue flanking. You don't, if you're trying to flank and then you decide, I'm not going to do that, I'm going to turn around and do front line thing, because of that the game, they lost. And we can also say they had chance to clear me again, they had chance to clear me, but they decided to cap instead. This is a very common theme in terms of players, that they can't prioritize what to do in Supremacy. In Supremacy, You only cap when you have absolutely nothing else to do. Okay, let's get that clear. In Supremacy, if you're a medium tank or light tank, your priority is to spot enemy tanks. Your priority is not to get into the medium flank, medium side cap and sit over there. Your priority is to spot. And then if you have absolutely nothing to do, for example, you still can go and flank in medium tank. You have something to do. So capping is not priority for you. You have to leave the cap and continue supporting your team, because if you go towards cap, you are going to waste 30 seconds or something it takes of your time, and that 30 seconds is enough for the enemy team to realize that some dumb player is capping. The ally team does not have enough tanks, so the enemy team can rush them. Because of that, many times so many Supremacy games are lost, because the medium tanks decide to, I want to cap on this base. I'm not going to flank, I'm not going to support my teammates, I'm going to cap. That is so idiotic. But if the case was like this, that you went to spot, you spot the enemies, but you have absolutely no chance to flank because the enemies are maintaining good map control. In that case, in that particular case, which is incredibly rare, you don't get to play with tournament teams every day on regular battles. If that was the case, in that case it is completely fine to cap, because you have absolutely nothing else to do. I went a bit on tangent, but let's get back. We talked about light and mediums, now let's talk about heavies. Heavies in general can go and cap directly, because the heavy side, the way Wargaming makes the heavy side, they are not generally in open, so you can directly go towards cap and get your cap, the enemy will get their cap, and the base number would start ticking, and now the heavies can do their thing. So on heavy tank it doesn't really matter that whether you go directly to cap or whether you directly go towards fighting. But I would still say that if you're a hull down tank in heavy and you're decently mobile, then you should definitely prioritize getting into your position over capping. Then you have the tank destroyers. Tank destroyers under no circumstances should go and cap. I'm straight up going to say that. Under no circumstances. Tank destroyers' role is to support their team however possible. That is why they have such good guns. They have either big guns or have incredibly good guns, and depending on mobility they can place themselves. So in tank destroyers, your priority is definitely to support your team, never to cap. That is why 268 lost here. They had opportunity to flank and destroy us, but did not do that. Then they had an opportunity to get rid of me because I was on a reload, but they decided to cap. Thanks to that dumb play, we won. Otherwise this game would have been a loss. Now let's continue on to the next replay. This is the third replay, and this is the highest damage one in the Normandy. We have 60 TP, a tank that can hull down and also side scrape a bit, not too much. Even in the side scraping heavy. Emil, a hull down tank. Precision 65 is a medium with not really decided they want to, but it's a hull downish, you can see. Standard B is also hull downish, but they don't have any armor profile. Then we have Waffle. So I guess they can go towards the heavy side, as there is hull down positions over there and side scraping ones. I'm just going to sit here in the bush and wait for some of the idiotic medium tanks to poke sideways. But it just turns out that our standard B doesn't want to go towards the medium side and is saying everyone to go towards right, which is completely idiotic. Because in a medium tank, your first job is of course to spot. You should never like dedicate yourself to go towards corner. It will always end up in a loss pretty much, because the team doesn't know where the enemy team is, and by the time they would realize, it could be too late. Now the E100 is trying to spot like a medium. Notice that the D57 is being completely dumb and rushing. I try to aim, don't and the gun RX I push further, load the adrenaline, but didn't do any module damage sadly, and that was also a low HESH roll. But anyway, it was 1200 damage, pretty good. Notice the Foch is over there. I want to smack him, but he's backing off. It's fine, I'll just wait here a bit. I don't think the mediums are that smart either. TVP is over there and the Foch is walking again. I'm going to load the HESH and aim, smack, nice. Also, almost managed to ammo rack him. Didn't quite. Notice the standard B is over there. I want to smack him now. If he will stay on it, there's the TVP. Standard is still staying, so I'm going to smack him to drive forward. Don't think anyone is looking towards me, just taking a gamble. A nice smack, above average roll, and completely obliterated his modules, but none of them went off for some reason. I think this tank can easily ammo rack a standard B, but apparently not. Then I want to relocate because our heavies are not really being useful. One of the heavies is sitting on the TD side of the medium flank, and 60 TP is over there for some reason. Like, minimap, enemies were spotted for quite a while. There's the 5120, completely misses. The replay is a bit laggy. There's the T62A. Got shot at him, then TP is rushing, going to smack him. Above average roll. Damaged quite a few modules, but didn't ammo rack anyone. Like, come on, ING, be nice to me. Now the T60A wants to rush me. I don't know if he's counting or not. Going to smack him, and a 62A does not get ammo rack. Like, come on. I guess all of these players are running that provision, which reduces my chance to ammo rack something. Luckily, 120 didn't have one more shell, so I survived for a bit longer. And ammo rack finally onto a low damage tank. Like, that was so useful. I could have used that against 62A by now. That would be so much useful. But nah. Ammo rack the 700 damage tank that I can already clear with my AP rounds. And now you'll notice a bit of saltiness from me. I was getting annoyed by the heavy tanks. Like 60 DP was camping behind me in a very good heavy tank. Doesn't matter. I mean, has went basically AFK. I'm saying the dude to cap, but he's going to now poke further. Useless garbage. It's good that the chat is bugged a bit right now. You only have limit of 10 characters, so you don't see much of the salts I'm sending here. But anyway, I'm saying the dude to cap, but he wants to poke sideways. He will eventually go and cap, but we can go to the battle results menu now. It should not have been that salty, but anyway, 7,000 damage, 5 tanks destroyed, A's and bunch of other medals that no one ever cares. Can I get into the team results, please? I hate the unnecessary animation. It got old pretty quickly to me. So there we are. Let's again start with the bottom. Emil, 0 damage, went AFK on the TD side of medium flank. Fucking amazing. Waffle, I think he was in the heavy side camping, but got rushed. 300 damage. Don't know what to say. Even 100 damage, 573. They went towards the medium flag, tried to spot, I guess someone completely butchered them. Standard B, as expected, a medium tank going towards heavy side, which is completely isolated. Whenever you're going to poke, it's almost always guaranteed that you're going to get smacked. And in case of Standard B, a tank that can be penetrated with HE on the front got balanced, basically 700 damage. Like, they didn't even finish the clip. They like shot They didn't even finish their magazine. They shot twice and forgot to play further. Progetto was also with standard B, finished their magazine once and died. 60 DP did 4000 damage. Fine. And the FV25 BY83 somehow did 7000 damage. And there's nothing surprising here. The enemies were kind enough to sit in open, sideways, or rush in front of me to shoot HESH rounds into them. Nothing surprising there. And the enemy fought, I would say, completely dumb moves. Foch doesn't have gun depression, so it would make absolutely zero sense to poke on a hill when everyone can shoot you. I guess they would have learned that lesson now that I managed to do 1400 damage into them. TVP went towards the heavy side, for God's sake, in a hull down tank instead of spotting. Like, if any of the enemy mediums were using their tanks properly, first spotting, then relocating, then I would have never managed to do 7000 damage, because the enemy team would have known where the FV25 B183 is. And I guess that doesn't matter. Their T57 rushed me, so they already knew. Despite that, they decided to poke one by one in 20-second intervals, so I could just load my shell in and smack them. But anyway, mediums are to blame here. They did not play their medium side. They could have easily obliterated 60 TP like they obliterated even 100, and then they could have worked their way out to deal with FV25 B183. The game was in bag for them. They just had terrible play. Like, look at my team here. Only 2 players did more damage than their hit points. Everyone else did 1000 or less damage. We even have, we can see, 2 AFKs, Waffle and Emil. Despite all of this advantage, the enemy team still somehow managed to lose. AMX 50-120 did idiotic rush. It was not required. They could have played in the range and used their gun. It doesn't matter. T57, the most idiotic player, I would say. Rust in T57, it doesn't have armor profile. It can be punctured with HESH. I mean, it does have armor profile. The front hull is thick-ish, we can say, but the turret is very easy to penetrate. The rust in that tank, and it also has 20-second reload. Like, if you'll shoot 3 times, then what is your main goal here? You're rushing in open, you shoot 3 times, what next? They could not manage to figure that out, despite playing this game for 8 years, as you can see by the avatar. That was the dumbest move possible, and ST1 was camping. Like the enemy on the medium side with tank destroyers on the tank destroyer bush. ST1 is a hull down tank, one of the retarded hull down tanks out there. And they wasted all of that potential sitting in TD bush. Fucking amazing. But they still somehow managed to do 3000 damage. And someone is going to say that, oh, you did 3000 damage, that's more than their hit points, that means they played properly. No, that was got off. They did not play their tank at all. It's a hull down heavy. You're not supposed to sit at the back and camp. You're supposed to get on a hill and do your hull down roll and a heavy roll of taking hits, spotting tanks, blocking damage, and doing damage in return. Like ST1 has that IS-4 gun which penetrates pretty much everything once you press the 2 key. Oh boy. I am running low on oxygen. My head is hurting now after looking at this. But I guess should I do a random, like, videos should be about over 30 minutes by now, but yeah, we can do, I guess, how to play it as well. So I am not going to I'm not going to put too much effort into this video like most of the Blitz YouTubers do. I'm going to straight up make you watch the entire no, I'm going to make you watch a different replay but it's not nothing ace or anything, it's just a random replay, don't mind me. I'm just going to tell you how to play the tank, how to play the FV215B183. The thing is, in FV215B183, as it's a tank destroyer, your first main goal is to support your team. But to support your team, you should be alive, you should not be rushing, okay? The thing is, FV215B has no armor profile, so front lining is completely out of the question. Even second lining is completely out of the question, because as soon as you get spotted, if the enemy team is competent or they have ever faced FV215B183, they're going to prioritize you because you are the shit. You are the biggest damaging dealing tank in the game. So you would be focused for if you are going to be front lining or second lining in this tank. So at the start, always I'm losing my mind here after making a 49-minute video, but anyway, always camp at the start. Camp is generally meant for something players who just sit in some corner without having any shot set. You don't want to do that. At the start, you're going to do effective sniping. You're going to sit at the back, yeah, of course, but you're going to position yourself in a way that you can support your team. You can pick whoever you want to support. Either go with heavies, but you're required to be in distance, or either go with mediums, and you're still required to be in distance. But in mediums, you can be slightly ballsy. If the mediums are fighting in corridor for some reason and not in the usual high darkness area where they generally poke with their turrets, if they're not doing that, then you can be there, you can get spotted, and no medium tank would ever want to advance because you can easily penetrate them. Well, easily till the 9.1 launches where it's going to get nerfed. Penetration on AP rounds, but it's still good, 300 millimeters. Yeah, so the medium tanks would not rush if they are playing with in corridor area. But if they don't have functioning brains, like we saw in the 3 replays by now, it just happened to be that case. The mediums were completely dumb, they did not know what to do. If they're going to be like that, then you have a very good chance of shooting or smacking HESH rounds into them, or just smacking AP rounds. It's not bad. 900 damage is very good. It's like half of their 8 points. That's one way. On heavy side, you're of course required to be at range. Reason being, the way Wargaming are making heavy tanks at the moment, they have very strong armor profile. Even when they're not held down, your tank sometimes simply doesn't have enough penetration to deal with them. But if there's an exposing or something that you can go through lower plates with HESH rounds. You would of course require to spend a bit of time in BlitzHangar or something like that. I should close the window, otherwise there will be a bunch more motorcycle noises. Anyway, yeah, you're required to spend a bit of time in BlitzHangar or Armour Inspector to know the weak spots, but don't go for these pinpoint weak spots that are very hard to hit. Go for weak spots that are big. For example, IS-7's lower plate, that is very big. You can penetrate that when IS-7 is exposing their lower plate, surprisingly. You can also do that against IS-4s, but IS-4's lower plate is bit not that big in terms of height, so that is always a gamble. You can completely miss the tank. You would hit under it and the shell would completely fly past the IS-4. You would require to find weak spots that are big, and then let's say the enemies are low in numbers, or there are not that many healthy tanks left, then you can go run and gun in this tank. You can shoot and clear enemy tanks, that's it. But let's say example that your team is playing incredibly poorly, then don't push. Wait for enemies to be dumb, rush you or poke sideways. You can smack HESH into them. The thing is, if you're going to give up without doing much damage, you're going to lose a lot of credits. You don't want to do that. Try to do damage even if your odds are completely against you. Like, I wouldn't say the second replay was a good example, but it is an okayish example, and you can play the tank. The tank is of course not good by any means, it is okay, you just play it for fun. Thanks for watching, see you later, bye bye.